you.
I think memory is one of the most interesting things in all of existence because I don't know, I think it's so, you know, you have to use memory in every single day of every single thing and every single thing of life, you know? You gotta remember this, you gotta remember that from personal to like educational things. And I used to think that I couldn't remember anything at all, like especially during school. And then especially I feel like eventually I learned how to like, you know, methods. I learned methods of how to remember and remember just by simply just writing things down over and over again. It's my main mechanism of coping, and it's also my main mechanism of just remembering in general. And so I don't know. I think it's so compelling, especially like I feel like when with general media, it's kind of when you look at media from picture to picture, from frame to frame, it's always like a certain like requirement of in these shows that you do remember majority of the time, and when you don't remember, when when a person doesn't remember um something in a show or in music or in media or anything, it's very, off-putting. It's very, not the norm. It's very, sometimes it's laughable, sometimes it's like, how do you not remember that? But I feel like in general with anything, like you don't remember a lot of times. You don't remember like a certain specific day of your life. You can remember a vibe, you can probably remember a picture or a moment, you can probably remember that and this and the third, but you can't remember every single thing unless you're part of that like 0.0000001% of people that remember every single thing. Um, but that's not the majority of us. That's not the majority of us. And so, you could have a great memory, you could have terrible memory, but eventually you're going to forget. And I remember as a child those memorization games, those memorization things with math, especially. There's like, it's not writing, it's not like acting. You can't just write down things over and over again. I feel like I can't memorize it like that, which is why math is not my thing. It didn't make sense to me. It never made sense to me, and I was like, why should I memorize this? I'm not gonna use it, and I still don't use trig. So that's just me though. I mean, I guess it wasn't trig back then. It was like those table tests, those fast quick math tests. But even then, I'm like, we had phones, and back then we had phones, and the teacher even knew. We're like, I mean, you're not gonna use calculators in your life, but I mean, we do have phones, so you know, it's less and less requirement of memorization of those particular things. I remember, especially like with pictures, you have to remember faces. You have to remember, match the face with this. And I would get so upset. Oh my god, how am I supposed to remember this and that and the third? How am I supposed to remember that? Which, I mean, I think I eventually did because I think it's fun trying to test your own memory, but it's also scary. I think that was the first moment of like me being scared of like, you can't, if I can't remember that, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. So I think that's all this to say is that I think it's scary not remembering. And I think it's interesting not remembering certain things, certain factors of your own life. And you ask for other people's opinion of your own life, and they might not remember parts and pieces of your own life and their own life. And you're trying to just tell stories to each other and from each other. And sometimes the stories get skewed in their own little ways, purposely, unpurposely. It just happens. And so it meshes into like, oh, a whole different memory that may not even be your own memory, but it's still a memory nonetheless, curated from somebody else, or curated by yourself, or curated just from the vibe of the day, or the vibe of the day when it did happen. I think that memory in media is the coolest thing ever. And I think that definitely more stories should be able to tell um, media with the aspect of memory into play. um I think that especially like watching a bunch of different shows or listen to a bunch of different music
Have caused me to revisit these
different things, and especially experiencing, going through a transitionary moment in your life, you kind of have to, re-experience memories or try to think back and try to remember. And so I think it's very interesting when shows and media in general does have that memory aspect that is faulty in its memory, because that is so human. Not a lot of media gets into it like that. That's what I'd be like focusing on, the media that does tackle these topics, starting with music. So I think my first instance of like having memory in music would definitely be like Remember the Time, Michael Jackson. And in the canon of the music itself and also the music video, we are just presented with the question of, do you remember the time that we fell in love, And I feel like it's definitely it's a remembrance of that better time, of that greater time, regardless of circumstance currently. But it was such a great and more impactful moment that, the person hearing this needs to remember the time, because it seemed to be such a great time. Currently, I feel like what really got to me was Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer. Especially that was my first instance of really, really getting that memory aspect, especially since the motion picture really focuses on it, but also even going backwards in time to Janelle's other albums too. But yeah, so in Dirty Computer, you have this person who is going through, essentially the government trying to brainwash you into not remembering these good times, all these beautiful times. And the thing that clicks these people is literally love. Love was the answer the whole time, and I think that's so beautiful. And I think just going back, trying to see like, oh, certain parts, certain fragments of this person's life, through music and through flashbacks and through, the love and through everything, I think. And then just remembering with love that clicks for you. This can definitely relate to real life experiences of finding your way out of traumatic experiences, or just experiences that are pushed upon you due to the government because of love, because you care about your life, because you care about somebody else's life, because you care so much. The aha moment, I love aha moments with memory and media. I love that with life. I remember these moments. I think that the vibe of these moments where you forget, it changes rather than the whole entire memory. Or I feel like sometimes I more so bury down these memories and then have an aha about I did bury down this, I did bury down that. And correlating with the Dirty Computer album and its overall message and theming about how the government can make you bury down these feelings and these things and views and anything like that, because if a system is too oppressive, it can do that and it can impact the psyche without brainwashing being a factor. However, brainwashing can be a factor in certain systems. To bury down certain XYZ in that type of system, or friends, family, quote unquote, trying to force you to bury down XYZ, that is also, it's a really real thing. It doesn't have to be just in a fantastical way. It's something that does happen in general. But yeah, I think what really got to me, what really forced me, what really pushed me to doing this is two shows. And I think the first one I'm gonna mention is I May Destroy You, which is the final episode. And I think it just going through all these fractions, because trauma does warp your brain and warp it in so many different ways, and you're like, did this happen, did that happen, is this real, is this fake, type thing. And I think it really did a really good job of that. I think especially like trying to remember back, especially on a traumatic event throughout the whole entire series, was really, really good, because you're trying to remember this, and that and the third, and your brain blocks it, and you can't see it, because especially if there is substances involved as well. So it's two things that are combating against your own self, and it's a very trial and error. And I really love, like, the characters in that show. very human. So very very human. So every single episode, crying, sobbing, tears. Every single episode, and I just kept watching it. I was like, I didn't even take a break. I just kept watching it and watching it. Um, yeah, I think another show that really gets me with memory, especially Interview with the Vampire. I think that show really really displays it amazingly. I think especially the second season, especially I think the shifting point was definitely that last episode of the first season. I didn't notice how much they were going to go fully into it in the second season, because they're like, yeah, memory is a monster, and they tell you how much memory is that monster, and how you can't remember these certain moments. And of course there's a magical element, as you know as with how Dirty Computer has a missed the magical element of that, with the gas. But this is a vampire element of memory wiping and stuff like that. But even though with both medias they do use this magical mystical element to represent how this memory gets distorted, there's also moments where it is just your own self, and there's also moments that it is like the people around you that kind of force you into not remembering. So they use these magical elements to represent real things that can occur, real things that your brain does, and you're left with something tragic. I think something very tragic that Interview with the Vampire does is very tragic, especially when you're representing something that you cared about so much, so deeply, and you see that love for Louis that he has for Claudia, really does push him, and does push him to want to remember, and does push him to try to remember. And I feel like it is the whole show, that is the whole reason, whether it's conscious or not unconscious, of why he does this whole thing to trying to remember. A lot with Dirty Computer, like I said, grabs Jane was the love, and the thing that grabs Louis is the love that he has. So it's both things. It is for love. It is trying to grab at it. Is trying to grab at that happy moment. That the do you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember these moments? And even in the sad moments, even in the bad moments, even in the terrible, even in the ugly, he's still trying to remember. He's still trying to. And even in the sad moments, even in the bad moments, even in the scary moments, she's trying to remember. Because memory is everything. Memory is power, and memory is knowledge, and memory is part of you. Memory is part of your unconscious part of the brain, the little back part of your brain that you can't see anything, but it is a part of you, whether your brain wants to acknowledge it or not. To do this channel, I think I have to go back to parts of my memory and try to remember the beauty, the ugly, and the things that just are not remember. I want to hype up and a beautiful media that helped me with memory and helped me push through. I want to remember the good, the nostalgic, and I want other people to, if people are looking at this, I don't know, I'm just making things for me. I want people to essentially look at it with me, and remember and re-experience these things, and maybe you've experienced things of your own. Media is so big and so a part of you, whether you like to acknowledge it or not. But this media, it does impact your brain, and it does impact how you view certain things in the world. It does impact how you are brought up and stuff like that. And I feel like especially nostalgia is something that you grab onto, especially in harsh times and bad times, and when you just want to curl up into a ball and just be a kid again. I want to grab at that too. um I love vampires, and I love teen movies, and I think that's they're very two different types of genres, but I know both of them really really well. So I will be especially exploring both of those, especially how those two can impact the psyche, and how that can impact memory especially. And I really want to get into that, and I think that memory comes and memory goes, and I think it's important to acknowledge this portion of my life, because it is such a transitionary portion of my life. So here's my memory, and you can capture that memory in this little screen right here. And then one day when this memory gets deleted, I'll say goodbye.